So a very warm welcome to all of you in our today's live session, and as well a very warm welcome to all of you on our new YouTube platform as well that we have launched specifically to cater the needs of RBI Grade A, Grade B aspirants 2025. So before I'll start today's discussion, you must be knowing one thing that RBI has released the you can say in its website that between September 18th, 8 to 14, they will be releasing the advertisement for the upcoming RBI Grade B 2025 notification. So that's a huge thing. Yeah. RBI has released the tender notification on its website. Yesterday only, RBI has released this on its website. Now, you can expect after 8th of September and between 14th of September, you can expect the RBI detailed notification and the newspaper advertisement. Okay? And most probably you can expect the phase 1 examination at the end of October. At the end of October 2025, you can expect the phase 1 examination, or even it might go in the first week of November as well. Now we will see what are the different ways that RBI can take. So recently in RBI legal vacancies, if you see, they conducted the phase 1 examination with a very short notice. So that is also a probability, but we cannot predict anything at this point of time. Whenever RBI will be coming up with the newspaper advertisement and detailed notification, we will get the idea what it is. Okay? Now, so that's a great news, and the number of vacancies you can expect between 60 to 80. This is something that we are having information at this point of time. The notification is going to be between 60 to 70, or you can say 60 to 80 as well. Okay? This is something is there in the news. So even, but this is the short thing is that the number of vacancies are going to be more as compared to last year. The number of vacancies are going to be more this year. So that's a positive news for all of you, for all the aspirants. And with that, now let's begin with our discussion of the day. From the thumbnail as well, you could have got an idea. You would have got an idea that today we will be seeing each and everything about the tariffs and what is the tariff for, and what is this India US tensions that are going on. What is this all about? So first of all, now just let me present my screen to you people, then it will be quite visible to you. Okay. Now I feel the screen must be visible to you people now. Now this is our today's, you can say, the point of discussion, that is USA India trade tension. It is in news. Earlier, US China trade wars was used to be in the news, but now India is also joined this trade tensions. India has not joined. US has dragged India in these kind of trade tension scenario. But as a RBI aspirants, RBI is a central bank of our country that is largely that has a major responsibility in context of India's economy. You know, so you must be knowing each and everything about what is this trade tension is all about, and what is this tariff and tariff war that is going on. So first of all, so this tariff, as of now, we are facing a tariff of 50% from US. Okay? 50% tariffs we are facing at this point of time from the USA. Now, this tariff of 50% came in two tranches. The first one was the 25% of tranche, and then later on, again, the US government imposed a tariff of 25%. So it came in two tranches, first of all. Now, although it got announced in the first week and the second weeks of August, but it has its implementation day from 24th, 5th of August. So it's been only 5 days that this tariffs has went has become applicable on us. Okay? Although it got imposed, it got announced in the first week and the second week respectively, but it got imposed. It becomes effective on 21st of August 2025. Now, so this is something that I just wanted to give you a brief idea. The amount of tariffs is 50%. It came in two tranches, 25% first time, and then again 25%. and on 25th of August it becomes applicable, it becomes effective. Now, first of all, what is tariff? So tariff is something you can say it is a tax or it is a duty, and who applies it got imposed by a government or custom authority. Okay. Now, as income tax, we levy income tax on the incomes of citizens of our country. Okay. So if you see from the same perspective, tariff is a kind of tax or is a kind of duty that government or custom authority imposes on the imports. First of all, what is export and import? Export is something that we send from our country to the other countries. Okay. Exports are the services and the goods that we trade, that we send to other countries. Imports are something, it might be goods or services that we import, okay, that we purchase from other countries. So export is something that we do, that we provide to others. Import is something that we get from others. Okay. So this tariff, this tax duty is something that we impose on the imports. It means whatever we receive from other country, whatever we receive, the it might be goods or services that we receive from other countries, we call it imports, first of all. Now, so this tariff or this tax has levied by US government and not by Indian government. So who will be paying these extra tariffs? The US citizens, US importers, US merchants, and not Indian citizens. First of all, this should be in your head that this tariff is going to be levied on US imports. Okay, US is applying this tariff on its own imports. So the citizens of US or the merchant and traders of US is going to bear the weight of this duties or taxes, not us. But obviously, there's a disadvantages for us as well, and we will discuss what are these disadvantages in detail in our next slides. Okay. So first of all, US government is applying these tariffs on their imports, whatever the imports they are having from India, whatever the services and goods they are purchasing from India, they are imposing tax and duties on those things. Who will bear this weight of this tax and duties? So US citizens, US merchants, US traders will bear the weightages. Okay. Now, first of all, and it is a protectionist trade policy. Whenever a country imposes trade, you can say the tariff on the trade or on the imports, it is basically for protection. And how this tariff works for this particular thing, I have added a slide for you, a blank slide. I will explain everything to you. Okay. Now see, now US is there, USA, and India is there. For an example, India is manufacturing an iPhone. Okay? India is manufacturing an iPhone. And the same iPhone is getting manufactured. I'm just giving you this idea just to have an idea that how tariff works. That's it. Okay? iPhone. US is building an iPhone. India is also building an iPhone. Now, India is a labor intensive market. In here, the factor of productions are cheap. What are these factor of productions? Labor, capital, all these kind of stuffs are factors of production. So in India, labors are less getting labor is less expensive. Then getting capital is also easy. So there are multiple reasons because of which India's a single iPhone in India is costing 10 US dollars. Okay? And in US, the same iPhone is getting cost at 12 US dollars. Now, okay, now what US did? US is manufacturing its own iPhone, as well as the merchant of US to get the to have the profit. They are importing the iPhone from India as well. Okay, what they are importing? They are importing iPhone. Now, obviously, now in US market, two kinds of iPhone is going to be there: manufactured and assembled in US, manufactured and assembled in India. iPhone coming from US will cost $12. iPhone coming from India will cost only $10. So obviously, the citizens or the the people will choose Indian iPhone. ठीक है? Now I'm just talking about on terms of monetary basis, not on the quality and the all those kind of things. ठीक है? Now see. So what US will do now? How tariff will work? Now US will think that it is a disadvantage for their own domestic manufacturers. So let's do one thing. Let's make it a level playing field. ठीक है? Level playing field. What US will do? US will say we will apply 20% tariff on the. Just wait. Okay. So what US will say that we will apply 20% tariff. They will apply 20% tariff on the imports that they are getting from India. ठीक है? On iPhones. So what they will say? US will say that we will be applying 20% tariff on the imports that we are having from India. So whatever goods and services they will be getting over here, it is an iPhone, they will be applying a 20% tariff. So now the 20%. ठीक है? So 20% will become $2. Now these $2 will get summed up with the $10. So now see, earlier it was $10. Now what US did? US applied a tariff of 20%. So now this $2 tariff will also be there in Indian iPhone prices. So now this iPhone effectively will become of a $12 only. Now see, US iPhone is also $12. Indian iPhone is also $12. So over here you can say what US did. US used the tariff as a protection mechanism for their domestic manufacturers. Okay? Now now the US citizens will think, now both the US and India's iPhone is we are getting at $12. So now they will negotiate it on the basis of optimization, the quality of their product and etc., and not on the basis of prices at least. Okay? So this is how this tariff works. So whosoever countries apply the tariff, their citizens, their merchants bear the weight of those tax and duties. So this tariff of 50%, who will bear the weight weight of these taxes and duties will get beared by US citizens, US merchant and US traders, and not by Indians. But what is going to be the disadvantages? For an example, now see, now let me erase it and then I'll tell you. Okay? Now see, let me open it again, then I will tell you. Now take a scenario when there is a US, now there is an India. iPhone in India as well. iPhone is getting manufactured on $10. In US as well, iPhone is getting manufactured on $10. Now, because of any reason, US thought that let's impose a tariff of 50% on India. This imports on 50% tariff on imports from India. So what it will do? Now let's calculate the 50% of this $10. It will cost you around $5 US. Now when India will import, their iPhone will become expensive. How? Earlier it was $10. Now the extra 50% tariff, $5 US. Now this is Indian iPhone. Okay, now see, now India's iPhone is, or iPhone manufactured in India is there in US market at $15 US, and the iPhone manufactured in US is getting is in their market for $10. So now this is how tariff will impact India. India's products or the commodities or services that India is importing or India is sending to US will become expensive in US markets. So obviously the citizens will choose the US manufactured items. In this case, in this example, US manufactured iPhone, and India will lose its competitiveness in the US market. How? If I'm getting something for $10, why I would be giving $15 for the same thing? So now there is a competition jo tha, whatever the competition was there between India and US, is in the favor of US because their products are on a cheaper side. But obviously, if anyone is choosing $15 Indian iPhone, then that US citizens or merchants will be required to pay extra duty. Okay? So for India, the disadvantage is that their competitiveness in US markets will be lost. For US citizens, that their merchant and traders will be required to pay extra duties. Now the glitch over here is that US don't manufacture anything now. If you see the past year trends of US economy, almost everything you can say, US has outsourced its manufacturing capacity. Whatever US is importing or whatever is there in US markets, a very few percent, a very less percent is getting manufactured in their own country. Most of the times, whatever is there in US market is they are getting imported from some country. It might be India or Brazil or China. Okay? So this is the thing. In US, if you see, as of now, I'm saying that iPhone is getting assembled in US, but the reality is US is not making anything. There is no manufacturing capacity with US at this point of time. If you see the previous regimes of USA, what they have done, they have outsourced their manufacturing capacity. Whatever they are having in their market, they are getting it imported from some other country's economy. Okay, it might be India or China. Now there are multiple reasons. In US, labor charges are high, and then multiple others. The factor of productions are extremely expensive. In India, in China, there is the factor of productions are cheap. They manufacture, they assembles items on a less expensive way, and that's why US merchants, US government imports all these kind of stuffs from these countries, and then they have it in their markets. But the reality is, now Donald Trump regime is promoting what they are promoting, that the Apple and all these kind of multinational companies should manufacture their items in their country, in US only, and this is how they will be managing this trade deficit. Okay? So now this is a very you can say a nonsense thing to say. Whatever the manufacturing capacity China or even India has achieved, they have achieved in a longer period of time. It takes around 5 to 6 years for a country such as China and India. Now US is a developed country, so there are chances that they will be coping up with this manufacturing capacity in 4 to 5 years only. But then also, if we'll take the earlier example of iPhone, it will take around 4 to 5 years to US as well to have that kind of manufacturing capacity as China and India is having, to deal with this deficits or to deal with this tariff wars. If I'm not manufacturing anything, I'm importing everything from other countries, and now, like an idiot, I am imposing tariffs on everything. So the obvious thing is that the weightages or the weight of those tariffs is going to come on my own citizens, because I am not manufacturing anything. I haven't anything in my country to offer my citizens at a cheaper rate. If I am getting iPhone from China and India, I am not manufacturing any iPhone in our country, and now I am applying tariffs on the goods and services that I'm getting from China and India. So obviously the merchants or the citizens will not be having any options. Okay, they have to bear the weight of these tax and duties, because you see, US is nothing to offer to its citizens because they are not manufacturing as much, because they have outsourced their manufacturing capacity. So this is something you can see is a negative point for US. Okay, for India, obviously we will lose our competitive edge, we will lose it. But yes, India is also now US is obviously, US, if you see on a dollar terms, is the biggest market. But India can also see different ways to diversify its markets. But the basically, if you see the basic the weightage of these all these tariff war is going to be there on US citizens only. India's market, we will see what are the major goods that we import to India and how it will get impacted. But India is on a safer side, if you see, not on a complete safer side. Obviously, India is going to get impacted. There is going to be disadvantages, but as not as much as US will see. Now, see, trade deficit. So, what are the justification for US tariffs on India? So, you must be having this in your head. So that why this all scenario got created at the very first place, why US started applying tariffs on India. So these are the justifications. Trade deficit, first of all, as in India China we have a huge trade, but India faces a deficit. It means we import more and export less. But in case of US it is opposite. India export more and India import less from US. That's why there is a trade deficit between US and India trades 45.7 billion, that too in favor of India. ठीक है? So US government, not US government, I would say, you can say the Trump government sees this thing as an evidence of unfair trading relationship. ठीक है? Now India and China is also having a trade deficit, that too in favor of China. ठीक है? India is also a major economy now, so they can also do these kind of stuffs, applying trade deficit to manage the deficit. But this is not a way, this is not a proper way. There should be a proper communication, there should be a proper trade communication, there should be a bilateral trade agreements between these two countries to minimize this trade deficit. And instead of doing these kind of nonsense activities like imposing tariffs from nowhere, and that too a country like India, which was becoming a major ally of USA. Now, non-monetary trade barriers. US says that India's provide various subsidies and food safety measures are protectionist in nature. Now see what happens. Let's take the earlier example of iPhones as well. iPhone only. For an example, US is manufacturing an iPhone for $12. Now India, that manufacturing is also happening on $12 only. Okay? But now what India's government is saying, that we will provide subsidy to every producer who is producing a, you can say, an iPhone. Okay? Indian government will provide subsidy to the people, to the producers who are manufacturing iPhone in our country. We will provide a subsidy of 2 rupees, $2. So what will happen? US, earlier US was also manufacturing in $20. India was also manufacturing an iPhone in $12. But now what Indian government said, okay, you manufacture in $12, I will give you 2 rupees as a subsidy. So the effective iPhone, the rate of iPhone in India will become $10 because $2 get compensated by our government. Now when these $10 will reach the US market, obviously we are going to have a competitive edge because we will be selling our iPhone at a lesser prices. What was the reason? Reason was that some part of our production expenses got reduced because of India's subsidies. Now India provide a lot of subsidies in agricultural products. Now the reason behind it, that we try to protect our producers. India, now there is no comparison between India and US at this point of time. First of all, okay, US is a developed economy, we are a developing economy. Obviously developing economy is going to have some kind of difficulties in reaching the level or reaching the prices of a developed economy. So just to make our producers competitive, to make our producers comfortable, we provide some kind of subsidies so that they can have a trade with developed countries such as US and can get the benefit. But these things will be there until we will not becoming a developed countries. Once we will be having on a level playing field with US in terms of economy, there will be no subsidies from India's side as well. Now US is comparing their economy with India's economy, and not and they are not acknowledging this thing. When US was a developing country, that country also used to apply a lot of subsidies. That country also used to provide a lot of subsidies when US was a developing country. But now, when India is a developing country, they are providing subsidies. Now it is becoming a pain in their eyes. Okay? But if you see, they are a developed country, we are in a developing country. US has also done the same thing when they were in a phase of developing or an emerging economy. Now India is also doing the same thing, but now US is getting troubled, and now they are saying that there's a trade deficit, and there is a multiple subsidies that Indian government provide, and because of this India's commodity becomes cheaper in US market, and that is fueling the trade deficit of US and India. But US is not considering the levels of India and US. India is a developing, they are developed, and they have also done the same thing when they were in a developing phase. So these are the things. Now, BRICS membership. India's membership of BRICS is also one of the major reasons behind the irritation of US. Why so? Because in the past years, in the BRICS summits, India and other countries, BRICS countries, proposed to make a bloc. Because as of now, if you see in an international trade, dollar is something that dominate. Whenever any country export or import or do any kind of international trade, they uses the dollar for payments. So what this BRICS country decided, not they decided, they proposed this regime that they will be utilizing some other money instead of dollar. So obviously it will going to hamper the value of dollar in international trade. So that was also a thing that irritated US a lot. And BRICS is viewed as an anti-dollar bloc challenging US economic dominance. US don't want to compromise with its economic dominance that it is having on international trade. So that was also a reason that they applied this tariff. Now, obviously, the major reason that they are saying that this is India-Russia relationship. So India imports a lot of defense and energy products from Russia. Okay? And obviously, they are saying, US is saying that India is fueling the war that is happening between Ukraine and Russia, but they are not considering that European Union is having large trades with Russia more than India. China is also importing a lot of oil from Russia, crude oil from Russia, that too in a huge amount as compared to India. European Union is also having trade with Russia, that too in a huge amount as compared to India. US is also having a trade with Russia for some critical minerals for their nuclear reactors, but they are not acknowledging all these stuffs. They are just trying to target India so that India will pressurize Russia, because at this point of time, if you neglect the imports that we have, the oil imports that we do from Russia, India Russia relationship is something that is a time tested bond, and India is only country that can pressurize Russia for any kind of negotiation with Ukraine. This is what their version of reasons, and this is the reason that they are ignoring European Union, they are ignoring China, they are ignoring themselves, and now they are trying to pressurize India, saying that India is the one who is fueling the India Ukraine war. Now, comparative pressure. So recently US has came in bilateral you can say the the trade deals with Japan and Vietnam, that too in their own conditions. Okay? So now US is trying to secure the same kind of trade deals with India as well, but they are forgetting we are India, we are not Japan and Vietnam. We are not going to get pressurized because of these tactics of US. That is as clear as that. On 24th till the 25th of August, US was having an apprehension that India will subside to their demands, but India has clearly stated this thing that we are not going to get pressurized because of this tariff pressures that they are trying to do. ठीक है. So US is securing favorable trade deals with Japan and Vietnam. So India, now they are pressurizing India as well. They are stating different reasons: the trade deficit, now the relations with Russia. So they are trying to give multiple reasons so that they can have that kind of trade deals with India as well. So that is also one of the reasons. Now India use trade landscape. If you see what is the amount of trade we are having at this point of time, so the US is India's largest trading partner at this point of time. The bilateral trade that we have in financial year 25 was 131.84 billion. That is huge. Now, goal. We also had a goal that by the 2030 we will be having a trade of 50 billion with us. Okay? That too with a bilateral trade agreement. But recently the Trump has said that until this this tariff clash not subside, they will not be having any kind of bilateral trade agreement between India and US. So that's a completely different thing. But we also had a target that we will be expanding our trade to 500 billion by the year 2030. As of now, it is 131.84 billion in the financial year 25. Now, as I said earlier, in this entire trade of 131.84 billion, sir, what right does the US have to impose duties on countries buying Russian oil? I will tell you, Kanishka, just wait. Okay? Now, see, so as I told you, that we are having a deficit now between US and India. There is a trade deficit, okay? And that deficit is in favor of India. So now if you see, Out of this 131.84 billion, India export to US around 87 billion. ठीक है? It means India is exporting more and US is exporting less to India. It means the deficit, the trade deficit is in the favor of India. Challenges: the US recorded a goods trade deficit of 45.7 billion in the year 2024. It means we are having this much amount of more trade with US as compared to them. We are importing this much amount of, we are exporting this much amount of goods to the US, and this is in our favor. FDI inflows, we are getting a lot of FDIs as well. So 4.99 billion was the FDI that we received in the financial year 24 from US. And US is India's third largest source of foreign direct investment. So whatever the investment we are getting in our country from US in form of FDI, it was almost 5 billion in the financial year 24. And US is India's third largest source of FDI. Now these data are extremely important from a point of view of your RBI Grade A Grade B examination. ठीक है? Because these data can be asked, because India US trade landscape, trade clash, trade war, whatever you can say, trade tensions is a hot topic at this point of time. Now, what is India's export sector? So now we just saw that we export more and import less. So obviously the trade deficit is in our favor. But what do we export? What are those sectors in which we are having a lead? What which are those sectors? Because of those sectors, we are having a favor in the trade deficit. ठीक है? So we export a lot of electronics and technology. India is the largest iPhone exporter to US. As I told you, that was the reason I was giving you the example of US, the iPhones. ठीक है? India is the largest iPhone exporter to US. The largest amount of iPhone you will be buying from US is getting assembled or manufactured in India only. So the 44%, if 100 iPhones is there in USA market, then 44 is coming from India. ठीक है? Now, this tariff may disrupt Apple plan to scale up to 60 million units from India. So Apple has a plan that they will be importing 60 million iPhones from India in the US market. So it may get disrupted. Pharmaceuticals, obviously you can say India is named as a pharmaceutical, the world's pharmaceutical. Okay? So India supplies 50% of US generic drugs. So whatever the generic drugs in there in US, 50% is getting imported from India. So tariff threatens that particular thing as well. Obviously, the cost, it is a cost sensitive sector. Someone is selling a paracetamol at 2 rupees a tablet. Okay? Then another company is selling it 1.75, although it's just a matter of 0.25 rupees. But on a larger extent, if you see, and on a larger quantity, it will make a huge impact. So pharmaceutical is a cost sensitive sector, and because of tariffs, we just saw an example that India's good will become expensive. Okay? So that is also a thing that can impacted drastically by the tariffs. Gems and jewelries. 30% of India's global gem jewelry trade is happening with US. It means if we are exporting 100 jewelry items, then 30 we are exporting to the US. Now, textile and apparels. So export face other order cancellation. So we export apparels as well, textiles as well. Okay? H&M is a US brand, first of all. Okay? But if you see, they are having a large base in US as well, but they are manufacturing the major amount of their apparels in India only. If you go to Surat, Jaipur, now you will realize that a majority of these multinational brands, they are manufacturing, they are getting manufactured their commodities in India only. So that is also a thing. Okay? Now implication. What is going to be the implication, the impact of the India on tariffs because of US tariffs? So energy imports. So we import a lot of. So our the major issue in our country is that we are a net importer of crude oil. Okay? Almost 9/10. If 100% we are importing, so 90% for our crude oil consumption we import. We don't have sources, we import. Okay? And Russia is our major supply at this point of time. So because of this pressurization, India might take initiatives to decrease its dependency on Russia or its oil imports from Russia. Okay? So obviously it is going to impact the crude oil prices in our country, And if the crude oil prices will get impacted, it will get reflected in each and everything, starting from electronics to vegetable market. Okay. Now, export losses and sectoral risk. Obviously, we will lose money from exports. Whatever we use to export, now it will become expensive. They will stop exporting from India, and that's why we will lose our export. Impact on growth and employment. Obviously, if Apple is manufacturing iPhone in our country, then they will be establishing industries over here. They will be hiring the laborers from India market, in India's labor market, है ना? So what it will happen now, if US will impose tariffs, now Apple will decrease the iPhone they are importing from India. So now the industries will stop their production, and that's why it will impact the employment of the laborers. Okay, who are there in the industries who are manufacturing iPhone in our country. So obviously, it's not only going to impact the growth as well as the employment as well. Now, competitive disadvantage. Obviously, we will India goods risk losing market share to suppliers from Vietnam and Japan and Indonesia, because these are the markets that US has already came in a bilateral trade agreements with these countries. Okay, now they will be exporting to US more, because obviously US was earlier used to import from India. Now they have decreased the imports from India. So now they will be looking for some other markets. So there is a chances that India's goods will get replaced by Vietnam, Japan, and Indonesia's goods. So competitive disadvantage is going to be there. Trade relations and diplomacy. Obviously, it has already hampered our trade relations and diplomacy a lot. And let me tell you one thing: US is not India's enemy, and US is not India's enemy. Whatever this blunder is happening just because of a single person, that is Donald Trump, the current president of US. Okay, I don't know what is the ideology of that person, because he is a kind of maniac. He can do anything at any point of time. Okay, but the reality is he is hampering India's and India-US trade and diplomatic relations just for the sake of its own kind of economic policies, and not the economic policies. If that person would have that much concern about the economic policy of their country, okay, that person should have prepared well before imposing these tariffs, that they should be having some manufacturing capacity in their own country, so that because of these tariffs their own citizens will not get affected negatively. But what that person did, he came and he just imposed the tariff without thinking about their own citizens. Okay, so that is something. The trade relations and diplomacy is getting affected a lot, and that too just because of a single person's ideology. If you see, there is a diplomat party and Republican party, two kind of political parties there in the US. Their own colleagues, Trump's own colleagues, and the people that is there in oppositions, they are saying it at loud that this person, this current president, is hampering India's US trade and diplomatic relations for no such reasons. Okay, they could have pressurized India with multiple other ways, but imposing these kind of tariffs, that too with an ally such as India, that is going to be a superpower in future for sure. There is no if and buts. And if they want to, multiple reports, even if you see the multiple reports of US defense institutions, now they are saying that China is the real enemy of, or the China is the real threat for US dominance at this point of time. And instead of having a dispute with China, Trump is using his tactics to pressurize Russia using the India. And if you see in the recent days, India and China is coming together again. Now, obviously, the reason behind is that China is trying to persuade the India's market, India's trade. Okay, in this all scenarios, they are looking for their own benefit. But the reality is that if US want to challenge the dominance of China in upcoming time, they should be having a great relations with India. And now they are hampering that particular thing as well because of the trade policy, or the idiotic trade policy of a single person. Financial and business effects. So now Indian equity market reacted with a decline in many export driven companies. Okay, so that is going to happen. That's a normal thing. So what is the ways so that we can reduce the impact of US tariffs on India? Fast trade talks. We should be having a trade talks with US and with other countries. Okay, to diversify our exports? First of all, obviously we should be having the trade talks with US so that we can decrease this tension. Okay? Then diversify export markets. Obviously, earlier we used to export to US. Now US market has got decreased a bit because of these tariffs. We should be looking for other export markets. And let me tell you, sometimes this kind of tariffs, or even this shows the real face of US. Okay? US is a kind of country that cannot be trusted at any point of time. You cannot trust US whenever it comes about defense sector or economic sector or whatever sector. Okay? They just looks, that particular country only looks for its own interest. Okay? We also looks for our own interest, but not in these kind of terms. Okay? But the reality is we should diversify. Now we can term this particular scenario as a blessing in disguise. Okay? How it is a blessing? Obviously it is going to impact our sector, our economy, for a shorter period of time. But if we diversify our export market, then our dependency on US markets will get decreased with time, and in future it will benefit you a lot. So in future, if US tried this kind of tactic again, India's economy is not going to get bothered. Why so? Because the share of US market in our total export market is going to be less, because at this point of time we can diversify our export market. Now, boost domestic competitiveness. Okay? Another thing is that earlier, if you'll take the earlier example, just wait. Okay, if you take the earlier example, iPhone that was getting manufactured in US was 12, that was getting manufactured in India was 10. Okay? Now what US did? US applied a 20% tariff, and then India's iPhone also become $12. But now India can reduce this $10, okay, by boosting its domestic competitiveness. And what will happen even after 20% of dollar, 20% of tariff, if India will make their iPhone at rupees $5 now, just for an example, okay, then 20% will become what? $1, and then again $6. $6 is going to be the prices. So again we will be having edge even after the tariffs. Okay? So we require to boost our domestic competitiveness, protect vulnerable industries. We need to provide targeted relief measures to the industries that are getting impacted because of these tariffs, such as you can say the textiles, the jewelries, the MSMEs, and then iPhone sector, electronic sectors. Okay? And what are going to be the means? We can provide the export credit, we can provide faster duty refunds, we can provide subsidies, marketing support, etc. Strategic energy diversification. Now we need to reduce our reliance on Russia as well, because the major reason behind, or the reason they have given us, is our dependency or our oil import from Russia. So, but the reality is, even if you ignore the US angle, at this point of time, we are having a large amount of US import from Russia. Whenever, if you see in economy, it is a negative thing to have a dependency on any other country beyond a certain level. So we need to reduce this reliance on Russian crude oil imports as well. Even if you ignore the angle of US, in that case as well, India needs to reduce its reliance on Russian crude oil imports. Okay? Now, so this was the whole idea behind the India US trade tensions. Okay? We discussed what is trade, what is the current present status of India US trades, what are the what how tariff works, which are the different sectors that will get impacted by tariffs of US on India, and how what are the different means that we can optimize, we can utilize to deal with this scenario. We discussed everything, and I hope that you must be getting a clear cut idea. Okay? Now coming back to the question that students asked, sir, what is the right does the US have to impose duties on countries buying Russian oil? Okay? Now see, the reason behind it, that US proclaims itself as a global leader. First thing. So obviously, whenever a country imposes itself as a global leader, they try to do certain things to stabilize the global trade or global scenarios. Now, when Trump was doing their campaign, that person was doing its campaign for the presidential election. That person said the day he will come, he will become the president. In within 1 days or within 1 week, he will end the Russia-Ukraine war. But that guy failed miserably. Okay. So now US, even India also have all the rights to impose duties on anyone. Okay. Obviously, and any country, any government can impose a tariffs on the imports they are having from other countries, because it is going to impact. But they don't realize one thing, okay, that it is going to impact their own citizens only. If you have that kind of capacity, that even if you stop importing a particular item from a country, it is not going to impact your citizens, then you can do it. Okay. So not only the US, all the countries has all the rights to impose duties on the imports they are having from the different countries. Okay. It is their own jurisdiction. Now देखो क्या होता है ना कि it's my own wish. If I am purchasing an iPhone from a shopkeeper A, and I am purchasing the iPhone of shopkeeper B. Now it's my own wish that I want to apply tax that I am on the iPhone that I am purchasing from shopkeeper B. So it is on my own wish. Whatever the positives and negatives are going to emerge. Now see, yes, because yes, the trade is happening between Russia and US, but US is intervening. Now there are basic reasons. Now see, US and Russia is a, you can say, is a cold kind of enemy. If you see the World War One, Two, all these kind of stuffs, if you see the Cold War era, India, the US, and Russia used to be two major global powers. Earlier to Russia, USSR was there, so they are inherently, if you see, they are a competitors, not only in the terms of space, in economic, in defense, etc. Now Russia and Ukraine is having a dispute. They are having a war at this point of time. Who waged the war? Russia waged the war, whatever the scenario might be at that point of time. Okay. Now, European Union is supporting Ukraine because the Ukraine is a country that lies between European Union and Russia. European Union has an apprehension that once the Russia will occupy Ukraine or will destroy the Ukraine, it can hamper European countries as well. If you see the past relations, if you go in past, European countries and US has a major bloc that opposes the dominance of Russia. Okay? So obviously, if US and European Union is a bloc that opposes the dominance of Russia, then they will be supporting Ukraine. Obviously, they will be supporting Ukraine. Now, what they are saying, that whatever the oils Russia, India is importing from Russia, the money, obviously India will be giving money to Russia because he is purchasing the oil. So that money is fueling Russia, is providing sufficient resources to Russia so that they can have a longer time war with Ukraine. So US, European Unions, these countries are trying to pressurize, okay, India, so that India will stop importing oil from Russia, and then Russia will have less resources, and then there will be chances that Russia will halt or will end this war. This is what they are trying to do. But at this whole scenario, they are trying to be blind. They are trying to be blind, so-called blind. They are trying to be. They are not acknowledging that China is importing oil from Russia as well, and that too on a larger extent as compared to India. European Union, who sees Russia as their adversaries, they are also importing from Russia. Okay, they are also importing a lot of things from Russia. That too on a larger scale, on a if you see on a terms value or on a monetary basis, whatever the trade US is having with Russia, EU, European Union is having with Russia is on a much larger scale as compared to India. Even the US is also having trade with Russia. But what they are trying to do, they are categorically targeting India, because India is having a relation with Russia in past as well. In 1971 war, if you see, Russia was the one who supported India. Okay? US was supporting the Pakistan. They came along with their own naval fleet. Okay? So that first of all, the India and Russia is having a historical ties. Now European Union and Russia, US is, they used to see, now they're apprehending it more. They have a major apprehension that Russia will impact European Union and US in future. So they are trying to support Ukraine. And then whosoever country is trying to support Russia or is providing resources to Russia by any means, by import, by exporting defense products or by importing the oil from them, they are trying to pressurize those countries as well. But in this whole scenario, they are not considering themselves, that is European Union. They are not considering China. They are not considering themselves, that is US is not considering its own purchases with Russia, but they are trying to categorically target the India. Okay? Now, even in when this war started now, US made passed a bill, and that the bill was Russia Sanction Act 2025. If you see, as per that act, US what passed in their bill in their parliament, that they can have a duty of 500% on any country who buys oil from Russia. So it is a free will of Russia as well. ठीक है? Even India can tomorrow India can come with this kind of act, then they can say that we will apply a tariff of 1000% whosoever will buy oil from Russia. So this is something that any sovereign country can do. ठीक है? But while doing all these kind of stuffs, you should be considering your own interest first. ठीक है? चलो. So this was it for today's discussion, and I hope that you people must have got each and everything about what is tariff, how tariff works, and how this tariff war is going to impact India and US. Now, if you want to download this data for free of cost, you can download our app Ecoholics, that is available on Google Play Store. From there, you can download our app and you can download this data for free of cost from our apps. Now, if you have any kind of queries in regards to these data or any paid data that we provide on our platform or the paid courses that we provide on our platform, you can reach out at this number mentioned over here. Okay, you can reach out on this number and all of your queries will get clarified with our experienced academic counselors. So if you are having any queries on courses or on the paid contents that we provide, you can reach out at this number at any point of time and all of your queries will be answered appropriately. So now tomorrow we will be coming up. Tomorrow is Sunday. Most probably we will be coming up with a new session, live session tomorrow as well. So stay tuned. Do subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so that you can get notification whenever we'll go live with such exciting topics. Till then, have a great day ahead. Bye.